progressed from a first local epidemic to a now global pandemic. Coming from an all-time high in January, driven by the implementation of IMO 2020, the market has first followed the usual Chinese New Year fall in rates. After the outbreak of COVID-19 and what was back then stated as a prolonged Chinese New Year period, carriers took heavy action in reducing capacity week by week. In the period between week 5, when the Chinese New Year blank sailing program started, until week 14, more than 50 sailings had been blanked on the Asia-Europe trade alone. When COVID-19 became a global pandemic, carriers further reduced capacity and announced another 73 blank sailings between week 15 until week 39. Apart from this unheard of capacity action by the carriers, it is now very interesting to see how this impacts usual patterns in the period of the year. First of all, we can see that despite a global dramatic downfall of demand, extreme supply chain impact due to factory shutdowns, port congestion due to stranded containers, and a very uncertain outlook on length and impact of the pandemic, rates did not bottom out by far beyond levels seen in the same period of the past years. On the contrary, rates were just $40 below the same time last year in early May. When moving on in time, rates have not fallen into the same patterns of a quick spike and gradual downfall as in recent years. We now see a step-like, steady upward development in rates. So what has happened? Obviously, carriers have managed to adjust their capacity in a much more consistent way than in the past. With the slight return of demand in Europe after the lockdown period, and a steady management of capacity through the blank sailings programs, we are currently looking into utilization levels between 90 to 95%, which indicates that carriers have somewhat hit the spot to balance active supply for the current demand. Carriers have also shown a much faster reaction time once bookings and thus demand indicators allow so. With this improved capacity management, the historical patterns of rate volatility during this season has turned into a more stable and gradual increase of rates. What will now become interesting to see is if carriers will manage to keep on matching supply to demand. Will the blank sailings action become the new normal, as it seems to be a controllable as well as profitable tool? Latest numbers on blank sailings show a mixed bag in the different alliance strategies. While 2M continues to blank roughly 20% of their capacity on the Asia-Europe, the alliance will bring back 4 out of the previously 12 services announced blank, which puts them back to blanking 12% instead of 20% of their capacity. On the flip side, Ocean Alliance continues their strategy of ad hoc blank sailings, still only having 1% of their available capacity blanked. It remains to be seen if the recent action is an attempt to fight for market share from the alliance, which holds 23% of the total Asia-Europe capacity, or if this is a pure reaction to, again, increasing demand. Well, this is it for this week's weekly spot rate update. I hope you enjoyed the content, and please feel free to reach out to us for comments or questions. Thanks, and stay healthy.